Detroit Den 313, Stephen Will talking that Detroit Lions football. Before we get started, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button. Do not forget the bell icon so you don't miss our new content. Steve, tell the people what is happening in Detroit.
I think there's a 99% chance that Josh Reynolds is gone.
Wow, 99?
99. I mean, I always leave a little room for just in case, but it's almost 100. Adam Schefter tweeted out a little bit ago that Josh Reynolds is visiting the Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore Ravens kind of need a wide receiver. It fits. The math adds up. If they don't re-sign Odell Beckham, they kind of need someone. So yeah, I think Josh Reynolds is gone.
How do you feel about it if he's gone?
I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. I will say that we have defended Josh Reynolds on this show, especially the last week or so. A lot of people hammering him. He had a terrible NFC Championship game. Up until that point, we either didn't talk about him or we talked about him in a very positive light. So that NFC Championship game, just kind of a bad moment, bad time. That's how we chalk it up. It wasn't something that was sustained throughout the year where he had issues. It was just, man, the NFC Championship game, it would have been nice to see those plays get made. They weren't. But if you look from weeks 1 through 19, nobody was saying anything bad about Josh Reynolds. So I don't understand it. I think Detroit Lions fans are very reactionary sometimes. Even we are reactionary, but, throughout time, and this has been a few months, it's time to really step back and look at the totality of the season. Josh Reynolds was very good for us last year.
100%. Big time catches in big moments. He was a guy who was a bit of a safety net for Jared Goff. He's a guy who hasn't played much football without Jared Goff. They know each other very, very well. I feel like they have a just language that doesn't even need to be spoken out loud.
Just a quick little wink, and they know what's going on.
They know what's going on, man. So it worries me losing that. That's what worries me. But outside of that,
real quick, you did say something. I think a stat that you brought up the other day that Josh Reynolds has only played like 7 or 8 games or something in his career without Jared Goff.
8 games without Jared Goff as his quarterback. So I just wonder. A lot of the things that he does is predicated on timing or finding holes. If he plays for the Ravens, will that look the same? But I think it'll just be an adjustment of getting a feel for Lamar Jackson. But Lamar he's an improv guy. Right? He can drop back and get the ball out on time, but a lot of the plays that you see him making is him running around, hanging around in the pocket. We talk about it all the time. Excuse me. We talk about it all the time. He's still hanging around in the pocket right now.
Lions couldn't get after him.
Yeah. So when in the game that he's playing against us, so just being able to do those scramble drills and get open, man. I think that that's something that he would be able to do after he adjusts, man. And if he goes out there, I'll cheer for him when he's not playing the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, I have no negative things or bad things to say about Josh Reynolds. I think he was phenomenal while he was here, and he hasn't signed yet. But I just think the writing's on the wall. And if he goes to Baltimore and signs there, I think that's a good fit for him. He doesn't have to be the number 1 guy. He doesn't have to be the second or third guy. He just has to be a guy. And I think he'll fit that role. He's not an elite playmaker. He's not a take the top off the defense kind of receiver. He's not overpowering. He's not overly physical. He's just a solid receiver. That's kind of what we needed him to be. I think that's what he would be in Baltimore as well. But now let's say Josh Reynolds is gone, not confirmed yet, but at the time of this recording anyway, maybe by the time this video is up, he will be signed. So I don't know. But how do the Detroit Lions look now without Josh Reynolds? Where do we go? Do we need another wide receiver? What do you think?
We definitely need another wide receiver, without a doubt. No questions asked, no ifs, ands, or buts. We have to get a X receiver, or we have to get somebody with a larger frame, right, to play the X position. I'm not saying that it has to be one of those 6'4" guys, 6'4", 6'3" guys, but I don't believe that Donovan Peoples-Jones is the answer, right? And I don't believe that we have the answer on the team. We need somebody to support the guys that we have now, and J-Mo and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta. We need a guy that can go out there and play the X.
Did you just come into my church and speak illy and blasphemous, saying that we don't have an elite playmaker on this team when Tom Kennedy's lingering around in a Detroit Lions uniform still?
Listen,
Don't you ever come into my sanctuary and speak ill about Tom Kennedy.
Tom Kennedy is a guy who keeps the practice squad together. Now, every now and then he'll show
He's
a
glue
glimpse,
guy.
a real game action. He'll come in and catch some touchdowns and real game actions, but he likes to keep that to a minimum. He doesn't want the light to shine too brightly on him.
All I'm going to say is if you put Tom Kennedy in an 81 jersey, you would not know the difference between him and Megatron. You would not see one small drop off between the two players. You would.
I I'm gonna tell you that with my elite eye, I might catch it before the end of the game. But yeah, you are correct. It would be tough to spot if he put on that 81.
Yeah, wouldn't know the difference. This is complete sarcasm. I know for people who don't understand it. No, I think. I mean, who's the big names out there in free agency? I have zero, and I mean zero interest in Odell Beckham Jr. We've already talked about him. I'll tag that video at the end of this if you guys want to check that out. But I think the better options, the best options going forward in the draft, it would be to take a wide receiver. But here's the thing.
Yes.
Do we need a wide receiver? And I said this in our video about Cam Sutton. I don't think we need a wide receiver because we have plenty of weapons. They might not be receivers, but we have a tight end who's pretty damn good. We have two running backs who are pretty damn good. Amon-Ra St. Brown, top 5 wide receiver. Jameson Williams, everyone's predicting a breakout. I don't think we need another weapon. I mean, if you want to just throw a guy in a receiver room, yes, but I think on offense, we're pretty set. I mean, I don't want our offense to get vanilla, like you said, where it's predictable and we're not changing it up and adding new pieces. But I still believe that now that the Cam Sutton stuff is done and over with and he's released, I think the pick has to be on defense, either a defensive end or a corner.
I disagree. I think we have two options here. Two options. One, call Tyler Boyd immediately.
Free agent.
Call Tyler Boyd immediately. He's still hanging around out there. I think he was the most underrated receiver free agent available. Right. And I think that he's intermediate money. He's a guy that's wants a little bit more than a Josh Reynolds is going to get. But at the same time, he played with some guys where there wasn't a lot of footballs out there for him to be thrown. Right. So with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, this guy can play some football. Got his stats up right now. He has 1,000-yard season under his belt, and he's always going to put you up between 600 and 800 yards. All right. So he's kind of a guy that can fill a Josh Reynolds type of role. There's not going to be a whole lot of footballs out here in Detroit, but he's a guy that's more than capable of playing the X. He's more than capable of being okay with being a role player, and he knows the game. So I'm giving Tyler Boyd a call, and if we don't call Tyler Boyd, then I'm the opposite. I got to go get one of these dogs at receiver, and here's why. If I'm playing the Detroit Lions, it's one thing that I'm going to do. I'm going to pack the middle of the field. I'm going to pack the middle of the field because I know what amon-ra likes to do. I know what Sam Laporta likes to do. And I know that it has yet to remain to be seen to see if we're ever going to throw the ball to J-Mo deep. So I'm packing the middle of the field. I'm stopping the short deke and dunk throws. I'm trying to get Goff off a rhythm. What can we do to combat that and get the ball out of Goff's hands quick, still, like he likes to get the ball out of his hands on time? A big X receiver that can go up and high point the football. What can help us in 3rd down and 6s at the goal line? A big, tall X receiver that those safeties have to honor. You have to send somebody out of the box, and they can't just pack the middle because you got to stop that fade ball from that X receiver, the Mike Evans type ball. So I don't know. I'm still high on the Donnie Mitchell and Xavier Liggett in this draft. Javon Baker is another one I like. I want to see us either give Tyler Boyd a call or go get one of those 3 receivers. If we don't get one of the edge rushers or one of those 3 receivers, I'm probably going to have some questions. I'm not going to stress out. I'm not going to question Brad Holmes, but I'm going to have some questions.
I'm not against it. Listen, if we draft a receiver at 29, I can wrap my head around it. I can understand rationale. I can understand what Brad Holmes is trying to do. I can understand what the offense needs. But I just look at how bad that defense was last year. And yes, we addressed a lot of things. We fixed a lot of problems with secondary, but now we're missing Cam Sutton. We have some question marks about Marcus Davenport. I love the DJ Reader signing. I think we have 2 corners who are very good if they can play 17 games. I'm not counting on Carlton Davis and Amik Robertson to not miss a handful of games combined between the 2 of them. So I just want to shore that up. But if it's a receiver, I'm good with it. I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to, whine and toss and turn at night about it. But I just think there's other needs. We have an explosive offense. I get it. I don't want it to get stale either. But I like Adonai Mitchell. I like Leggett. I like Xavier Worthy. Here's the thing. We've talked about this all the time. Somebody has to fall in this draft, and I can't wait to see who it is.
I agree. The numbers don't lie. The numbers are the numbers. There's more than 21 I'm sorry, 29 dogs out there, or 28 really, because we're going to be the ones selecting at 29. So there's more than 28 dogs out there. We're going to have a couple of dogs available at pick 29. But let me ask you this: if you're with our current roster, if you got to throw a fade ball, and we know we got a coach that does not want to kick field goals. I mean, it's just the facts are the facts. He's shown he's a guy that he's down to take risks. Who do we have on this roster that we're going to throw a fade ball to in goal line situations right now currently? Do you don't, are you of the belief that we don't have anybody?
I'm not saying we don't have anybody. I just don't think our options are overpowering.
Yeah.
Donovan Peoples Jones, I like what he can do in the red zone. He's a bigger receiver. Amon-Ra St. Brown's not really that type of receiver to go up and moss someone. I'm not saying he doesn't have phenomenal hands, but I'm not throwing him fade routes. Sam Laporta, maybe ish if the matchup's right, but I mean I'm not overly confident in that either because he's going to be, somewhere in the middle of the field, most likely. I'm not saying he can't go outside and line up, but I don't know. It really just depends. But I don't know. Do we need to draft a receiver for just to run one route?
Yeah, I think so. And here's why: it unpacks the box, it spaces the field, because now I have two throws that you have to honor. I gotta handle the back shoulder throw, right? And I gotta handle the fade ball. That requires me to take a safety out of the box. It's all about, to me, one-on-ones. If I can win a one-on-one matchup, right? So if you got Mike Evans out there at the X receiver, you're not trusting that corner to beat Mike Evans on a fade ball. Right. So now I got to pull a safety out of the box. What's that mean? Now things are a little bit looser for Amon-Ra. Things are a little bit looser for Sam Laporta. Things are a little bit looser for JMO. Even if JMO's catching that stop route, now the safety is getting pulled out of the box by the fade. I got a little bit more space to make my moves. It's all about that spacing for me, because with the Detroit Lions right now, and this is what we've seen last year, they would get down inside of the goal line, or they were getting third down situations and mediums. They packed the middle of the field so you can't get in breaking routes, and they jumped the out breaking routes. I mean, it just makes you honor, right? You're not going to be able to have three underneath, right? Or four underneath, I apologize, because you're going to be pulling people out of the box. You know what I mean? It just makes things a little bit tougher, man, to get those safeties out of the box.
I don't hate the rationale. And there's something I want to bring up.
Talk to me.
I'm kind of tired of hearing best player available. I'm kind of tired of hearing that term because I know we were kind of in a luxury position just like a day ago with Cam Sutton, but now that he's gone, I've been hearing best player available at 29, best player available. What the best player available is not the same for every team.
Yeah,
It's
that's
not.
people need to understand that.
Like where Brad Holmes has these players ranked is different than where the Chicago Bears are going to have players ranked. Now, I want to throw out a scenario for this best player available. If Jackson Powers Johnson is there at 29 and he's the best player available on Mel Kiper's board, it doesn't mean that the Detroit Lions have to draft him.
I think it depends. I believe in best player available to a certain degree. I think it's all about the definitions of the term. And I agree with you. I don't like the definition of the term that people throw out there a lot of times. So the definition of the term to me is like, so if Jackson Powers Johnson is out there and you have him rated as the number one center on your board, right? And you just think that and you have a first round draft grade on him, but the other positions that you were looking at were edge rushers, and Dallas Turner, Jarrett Verse, they're gone, right? And you're like, man, okay, those were my two guys that I loved. We have Jackson Powers Johnson as our next best player available. Then you take him. Even though you might have guys that might be able to fit that edge rush role, you might say, hey, Braylon Trice is a guy that can fit that role for us. And he's probably not going to be there at 61. And that's something that we need on this team. I'm going to go with best player available on our board is Jackson Powers Johnson. But just to say,
So
I got
you
to
would
lift
draft JPJ.
in that situation. It's all about, I'm going to draft my top rated players off of my draft board, period. So I'm going to have my edge rushers. I'm going to have my receivers. Okay. And as we go down that list, as those guys get selected, no different than the Jahmyr Gibbs. They had Jahmyr Gibbs rated on their board where they had him rated. He was available. No matter what we needed, he was the next person we selected. So that's how I'm going to draft my draft board, especially in the first round. Now, when we get into the second and the third round, it might change a little bit, just a little bit, because it's all about impact. those first round guys are supposed to be guys that can impact their position and win the one-on-one matchup. Your first round draft pick should win first round matchups or one-on-one matchups, period. So Jackson Powers Johnson should be a plug and play starter who you're not having to give assistance with a guard coming up and helping him get his blocks. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
hang on.
yeah,
Here's what I'm kind of hinting at with Jackson
yeah.
Powers Johnson, because you said he should be a day one starter. For the Detroit Lions, he's not going to be a day one starter. He might be best player available, but he's going to be on the sidelines for the first year of the season and pending an injury. That's why I'm saying best player available changes team by team. So if you guys are getting to the draft and you're seeing it on Mel Kiper or Todd McShay's big board and they have best player available, it's pick 28 and Jackson Powers Johnson is still there. Is he the best player available for us? Because I'm going to draft this kid. He's not going to play for a year. Our offensive line is set. We don't need him. What's the next best player? That's how it changes. That's best player available. I think Brad Holmes has his board, and that's why I use Jackson Powers Johnson, because I'm seeing his name a lot, and I'm just like, it doesn't make sense. Your round one starter or your round one pick should be a starter. You agree?
I agree to a certain degree.
Unless you're getting a bona fide Hall of Famer or a quarterback that you can sit for a year or two, like a JJ McCarthy. Yeah, then it's a little different. You're building for the future. But on offensive line, we're set there for at least 1 year. We don't know what's going to happen with Goff. Question mark, question mark, question mark. I'm saying if Jackson Powers Johnson's there, Kool-Aid McKinstry, yeah, Jackson Powers Johnson might be the number one player on the board, but he's not the most important player that I need right now to start day one.
So here's my thought process on that. I agree with what you're saying and understand the logic, but it's all about how you look at the player. So if I'm looking at Jackson Powers Johnson and I'm like, this is going to be a starter for the next 10 years, and I'm looking at Kool-Aid McKinstry and I'm like, this is a guy that could be a contributor, but do I know that he's going to start over a Meek? I don't know. Is this a guy that's going to start for the next 10 years for my team? I don't know. So, or if you're looking at him like, hey, both these guys are guys that are going to contribute for my team. I see these guys being, guys that are going to get multiple contracts from the Detroit Lions. Yeah, then you go with positional need. But it's just a matter of who is the best player available on your draft board that fits your team. I agree with you 100% on that. And that's what you got. You got to break that down to what that means to you, because it's and on the other end of it, you could be looking at Jackson Powers Johnson like, hey, now he's going to have a year where he can, iron sharpens iron, have to fight to get on the field. And then coming in the next season, he's going to be our guy for the next 10 years. And then Adonai Mitchell and Xavier Liggett were already gone. The edge rushers were already gone. So he was the best player that you could get for the value. So it's all about positional need, value, and best player on your individual draft board.
I think every other position in football, I can find a way to get you on the field.
Yeah.
Offensive line, you're set. You want those guys to mesh. You want them to click. You're not going to be shuffling them in and out. They're on the field every single play pending injury. So I just look at JPJ and say, you're not getting on the field unless someone gets injured. Whereas I've drafted Adonai Mitchell, I can get you in the game. Kool-Aid McKinstry, I can get you in the game. Terrion Arnold, I can get you in the game. Offensive linemen, you're not getting in unless someone's hurt. And we can bring up the whole swing tackle thing. That's Dan Skipper's job. That's Dan Skipper's job.
Steve, I'm going to tell you this. If we're living in a world where we got Jackson Powers Johnson on this team, when we put that swing tackle out there, you're going to see a little Jackson Powers Johnson, because he's an athlete. He's a guy that can pull. He's a guy that can run.
Just report as eligible. That's all I ask.
You got to report. Definitely got to report. Definitely got to report. And obviously, you might have to send a text so you got proof.
Yeah. Hey, confirm this. Like a fax machine. I need a confirmed message received.
Yeah, we need read a receipt.
No, I get it. If Jackson Powers, I'm just using him as an example because he's an offensive lineman. I've seen his name on Twitter a lot now.
Oh.
I'm seeing best player available. Look, 10 years from now, we wouldn't even be having this discussion. It'd be water under the bridge. We moved on. Jackson Powers Johnson, starting center, starting guard, Pro Bowl, first team All-Pro potentially. But I'm just saying, right now today, best player available doesn't always mean it's Brad Holmes' best player available. It's different.
Yeah.
Too many people get caught up in those Mel Kiper, Todd McShay, Daniel Jeremiah's big boards and how they have players ranked, but it changes for every team. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, I agree with you.
So guys, leave some comments down below. Let us know how you feel about Josh Reynolds likely signing with the Baltimore Ravens. We even got into a little draft talk that just kind of came out of nowhere. We weren't really expecting that. Leave some comments down about the draft, how you feel about that, who you're looking at 29.
What do you want Tyler Boyd?
Do you want Tyler Boyd? What do you think the Detroit Lions' biggest need is in round one? Leave that in the comments. Cornerback, wide receiver, defensive end. Leave some comments down below. Hit that like button. If you're new here, stick around, subscribe. We'll be back later with some more content.
Peace.